I asked my foster parents to stop my caseworker from forcing me to reunite with my siblings. My caseworker, Beverly, didn't understand why I'd want to stay separated. She'd read the file. 3 kids removed from a neglectful home, placed in different foster families, now eligible for reunification. It looked like a success story on paper. What the file didn't mention was why I'd begged to be placed separately in the first place. I was 14 when we were removed. My brother Ethan was 12 and my sister was 9. Mom had left us alone for 6 days while she chased her boyfriend to Atlantic City. When the police finally came, they found my sister locked in the bathroom because Ethan had threatened to hurt her. Again, the officers assumed it was just sibling stuff, kids acting out under stress. They didn't see what I'd seen for years. Ethan wasn't like other kids. By the time he was 10, he'd killed 3 neighborhood cats. Not accidentally, methodically. When I confronted him, he smiled and asked if I wanted to watch next time. I started sleeping with my door locked. I'd wake up at night to find him standing in my doorway, just staring. When I told Mom, she said I was being dramatic. Boys will be boys. The worst part? He was smart about it. He'd be charming to adults, got good grades, volunteered at church. But at home, he'd whisper what he'd do to us if we told anyone. My sister developed a stutter. I developed insomnia. For 4 years, I'd been the buffer between him and her. The night before we were removed, I'd found him in her room holding a pillow over her face, teaching her to hold her breath, he'd said innocently when I burst in. In foster care, I finally slept through the night. My sister's stutter disappeared after 3 months. We had supervised visits where Ethan would perform perfectly, hugging us, asking about school, playing the role of the loving brother. Beverly would beam. The visits lasted 2 hours. I knew what he was really like during the other 22. Last week, Beverly announced the big news. A couple wanted to adopt all 3 of us. The Hendersons had a large house, resources, and experience with sibling groups. Beverly called it a miracle placement. I called my foster parents in tears. They'd seen my nightmares, heard my stories, believed me when no one else did. They contacted their lawyer. Beverly accused them of sabotaging the reunification. The Hendersons were offended. The judge scheduled a hearing. Yesterday, my sister called me crying. Ethan had started writing her letters. They seemed sweet on the surface, but there were codes only we understood. References to games we'd played. She read me one line. "Remember when we used to play the quiet game in your room at night? I felt sick. That wasn't a game. That was him threatening her into silence." I tried to show Beverly the letters. She said I was interpreting normal sibling communication as threatening because of my own trauma. She scheduled the adoption finalization for next month. She refused to even read the full letters, just glanced at one and handed it back like I was wasting her time. This morning, I received a package. Inside was a small dead bird and a note in Ethan's handwriting. One word: soon. My foster parents called an emergency meeting with their lawyer. But here's what no one knows yet. I'd kept evidence. Photos of the injuries my sister and I had hidden under long sleeves. Voice recordings from when he thought I was asleep. His diary that I'd stolen years ago, filled with detailed plans and drawings that would make your blood run cold. I'd been too scared to use it before, worried he'd retaliate. But now I had no choice. The hearing is tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm bringing everything. Either the judge will believe me, or I'll be trapped in a house with him again. My foster mom helped me organize everything into a binder last night, her hands shaking as she read through the diary pages. She kept saying, "How did anyone miss this?" Tonight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message read, "I know what you're planning to do. You're going to regret this. Sweet dreams, sis." I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed with every light on, listening to every creak in the house. My foster dad checked the locks 3 times. He wanted to call the police about the threatening text, but our lawyer said it might complicate things. Better to present everything at once to the judge. Make it undeniable. At 3:47 a.m., another text came through. This time it was a photo, my window, taken from outside, tonight. I showed my foster dad. He grabbed a flashlight and searched the yard, found nothing but footprints in the flower bed, fresh, leading right up to my window, then disappearing into the street. He called the police anyway. They took a report, dusted for prints, said they'd increase patrols in the neighborhood. The officer kept calling it teenage pranks. Even showed me statistics about how sibling rivalry escalates during custody battles. "Your brother probably just wants to scare you," he said. He had no idea how right he was. My foster mom made coffee at 5 a.m. None of us bothered pretending we'd sleep. We sat at the kitchen table, the binder of evidence between us, reviewing everything one more time. Photos with timestamps. Medical records showing injuries that had been explained away as clumsiness. The diary with its careful, methodical entries. Ethan had written about us like we were science experiments. How much fear could he create before we broke? How long could he maintain his perfect facade? There was one entry from when he was 11 that made my blood freeze every time I read it. Today I learned something important. Pain is temporary, but fear is forever. Physical scars heal, but psychological ones compound. The key is to make them doubt their own reality. Make them think they're crazy. Then no one will ever believe them. My foster mom touched my hand. The judge will see this. He has to. But I knew how these things worked. I'd watched Beverly dismiss every concern, every warning. Adults wanted to believe in redemption, in second chances, in the idea that all children could be saved with enough love and structure. They didn't want to believe that some people were fundamentally broken. At 7 a.m., I called my sister. Her foster parents, the Kowalskis, answered. They said she'd had a panic attack around midnight, and they'd given her something to help her sleep. She wouldn't be coming to the hearing. Too distressing, they said. But I knew the real reason. Ethan had gotten to her. Those letters had done exactly what they were meant to do. "Can I talk to her?" I asked. The doctor said she needs rest. 5 minutes, please. Mrs. Kowalski hesitated, then agreed. I heard rustling, whispered voices, then my sister's small, terrified voice. He called me, she whispered, last night. He got past the phone restrictions somehow. What did he say? That if I testified against him, he'd make sure I never felt safe again. That he's patient. He can wait years if he has to. That reunification or not, he'll find me eventually. My hands shook. Did you tell the Kowalskis? They think I had a nightmare. They think the stress is making me imagine things. Her voice cracked. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe we both are. Listen to me, I said firmly. You're not crazy. I got the text too. The package. We're not imagining this. Then what do we do? I'm going to that hearing. I'm going to show them everything. And if they don't believe me, I'll make them believe me. After I hung up, my foster dad came into my room. He'd put on a suit, his court clothes. He looked tired, old. This had aged him. Whatever happens today, he said, you need to know we're proud of you. What you're doing, standing up like this, that takes courage most adults don't have. What if it's not enough? He didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, then we fight. We appeal. We document everything and we fight. The courthouse was downtown, a massive brick building that looked like it had witnessed 1,000 tragedies. We arrived at 8:30 a.m., early enough to meet with our lawyer one more time. Patricia Chen was in her 50s, had been practicing family law for 30 years. She'd seen everything, but even she looked shaken when she'd reviewed our evidence last night. I need to prepare you, she said once we were in a private conference room. Beverly has submitted her own report. She's arguing that your resistance to reunification stems from unresolved trauma and attachment issues with your current placement. She's got a psychologist backing her up. What? My foster mom's voice went sharp. What psychologist? We never authorized any evaluation. Ethan's been seeing someone, Dr. Richard Vance. He's written a report characterizing Ethan as a model patient who's made remarkable progress. Claims the allegations against him are likely the result of your daughter's distorted memory. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Did this Dr. Vance interview us? My sister? Anyone besides Ethan? No. Then how can he make those claims? Patricia's expression was grim. He can't. Not ethically. But he did anyway. And judges sometimes give a lot of weight to psychological evaluations. The hearing was in courtroom 4B. As we walked down the hallway, I saw them. The Hendersons. They looked exactly like you'd expect. Warm smiles, matching cardigans, the kind of people who probably baked cookies and went to church on Sundays. They had no idea what they were asking to adopt. And then I saw Ethan. He'd grown. He was 15 now, almost as tall as our foster dad. Still had that choir boy face, that innocent expression. When our eyes met, he smiled. Not a threatening smile, a sad one. The smile of a wounded brother who just wanted his family back. It made me want to vomit. Beverly was with him, her hand on his shoulder like a proud parent. When she saw me, her expression hardened. I'd become the villain in her story, the troubled teen sabotaging a perfect placement out of jealousy or spite or whatever narrative she'd constructed. We filed into the courtroom. Judge Minerva Chen presided, no relation to our lawyer. She was in her 60s, had a reputation for being tough but fair. I watched her face as she reviewed the case file, trying to read any sign of what she might be thinking. We're here today, she began, to address concerns raised regarding the proposed placement of 3 siblings with the Henderson family. Ms. Beverly Torres, you may present your recommendation. Beverly stood, all confidence and conviction. She laid out her case like she was reciting facts. 3 siblings separated by tragic circumstances. Good foster placements? Yes. But nothing could replace the bond of blood family. Ethan had made remarkable progress in therapy, had expressed genuine remorse for past behaviors. The Hendersons were experienced, capable, ready to provide structure and love. Your Honor, Beverly said, I've been in this field for 15 years. I've seen troubled children transform with the right support. Ethan is one of those success stories. To deny him reunification with his sisters based on incidents that occurred years ago, during a period of extreme stress and neglect, would be a grave injustice. Then it was Patricia's turn. She didn't waste time. She opened the binder, started laying out the evidence piece by piece. The photos first. My arm, purple and yellow bruises in the shape of fingers. My sister's back, scratches that she'd claimed came from a fall. Medical records showing 7 ER visits in 2 years, always with explanations that sounded reasonable on the surface. Notice the pattern, Patricia said. The injuries always happened when the mother was absent. They were always explained as accidents, and they stopped completely once the children were separated. She showed the diary entries next. Judge Chen leaned forward, reading. Her expression didn't change, but her jaw tightened. Beverly objected. Your Honor, that diary was stolen. It's an invasion of privacy, and even if we accept its contents as genuine, these are the writings of a deeply disturbed child processing trauma. Dr. Vance has testified that such writings are actually a healthy outlet for— Dr. Vance never interviewed the other children, Patricia cut in. His entire evaluation is based solely on Ethan's self-reporting. Your Honor, I have audio recordings I'd like you to hear. She played them on a portable speaker. My voice younger, shakier, narrating what I was seeing. It's 2:47 a.m. He's in my sister's doorway again. He's been standing there for 11 minutes. I've been timing it. She's pretending to be asleep, but I can see her shaking. Another recording. A different night. He killed another one. Mrs. Patterson's cat. Found it in his closet wrapped in a towel. He saw me looking and just smiled. Said I'd be next if I told. Judge Chen held up her hand. Stop the recording. She looked at Beverly. Were you aware of these recordings? No, Your Honor. And again, I have to question their authenticity. They're time-stamped, Patricia said. Metadata confirmed by a forensic analyst. I have his report here. Your Honor, Beverly tried again. Children in stressful situations often create narratives that don't reflect reality. The psychological literature is clear on false memories, especially when, Ms. Torres, Judge Chen's voice was ice. I'm looking at photographs of injuries, medical records, audio recordings, a diary with detailed entries. At what point does this stop being false memory and start being evidence? Beverly's confidence cracked, just slightly. I'm not saying the children weren't hurt. I'm saying the source of that harm was the neglectful mother, not Ethan. He was a child himself, acting out in response to severe trauma. Then explain this. Patricia held up the package I'd received. The dead bird in a clear evidence bag. The note in Ethan's handwriting. This arrived yesterday, along with threatening text messages. She showed the phone records, the messages, the photo of my window taken from outside. The Hendersons looked confused. Mr. Henderson leaned over to whisper to his wife. Ethan's expression never changed. Still sad, still wounded. Your Honor, Beverly said, I have no knowledge of these alleged threats. If they did occur, we need to consider that someone else might be. The handwriting matches samples from his school assignments, Patricia interrupted, verified by a handwriting analyst. Judge Chen sat back, looked at Ethan. Son, did you send threatening messages to your sister? Ethan's eyes filled with tears. Actual tears. No, Your Honor, I would never. I just want my family back. I've been working so hard in therapy. Dr. Vance can tell you. I know I made mistakes when I was younger, but I've changed. I miss them so much. It was a perfect performance. I stood up before I could stop myself. You're lying. Sit down, Judge Chen said, but not harshly. He's lying. He's always been able to lie. That's what makes him dangerous. He can convince anyone of anything. Your Honor, Beverly jumped in. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The level of animosity, the inability to forgive. She has a scar. I blurted out. My sister, on her upper thigh, shaped like a crescent. He burned her with a lighter when she was 7 because she accidentally broke his video game controller. She told the school nurse she spilled hot tea. Check her medical records. Check her body. The scar is still there. The courtroom went silent. Judge Chen looked at Beverly. Is there a record of this injury? Beverly shuffled through papers. There's a note here about a burn treated at urgent care. The mother confirmed the tea spill story. The mother who left them alone for 6 days? That mother? Beverly didn't answer. I want a medical examination, Judge Chen said. Today, if there's a scar, I want it documented, and I want a medical expert to testify as to whether its shape and location are consistent with the explanation given at the time. She looked at Ethan. I'm also ordering a full psychological evaluation, a real one, with multiple sessions and interviews with all parties. Your Honor, Beverly protested, this will delay the placement by months. The Hendersons may not be willing to wait. Mr. Henderson stood. Actually, Your Honor, if I may speak? Judge Chen nodded. My wife and I, we need some time to think. This is a lot of information we weren't aware of. We were told this was a straightforward sibling reunification. If there are serious concerns about safety, he trailed off, looking at his wife. She nodded. They both looked shaken. Ethan's mask slipped. Just for a second. His eyes went flat, cold. Then the tears were back, the wounded expression. Please don't give up on me. I've changed. I promise I've changed. But the Hendersons had seen what I saw, that flash of something not quite human behind the performance. We need to withdraw our application, Mr. Henderson said quietly. I'm sorry. Beverly looked like she'd been slapped. Judge Chen made notes. This hearing is continued for 60 days, she said. In that time, I want complete psychological evaluations of all 3 children, conducted by independent experts of my choosing. I want all evidence reviewed by a forensic psychologist who specializes in family violence, and I want a complete investigation into these recent threats. She looked directly at me. Young lady, I'm taking your concerns seriously, but I need you to understand that what you're alleging is extraordinary. I need proof beyond these recordings and photos. I need experts to confirm that your sister's developmental issues and your sleep problems are consistent with prolonged abuse and not, as Ms. Torres suggests, attachment issues and trauma responses to neglect. I understand, I said, and I need to see that scar. We left the courtroom in a daze. My foster parents were quietly proud. Patricia was cautiously optimistic, but I knew this wasn't over. Ethan was waiting in the hallway. His foster father was with him, a tired-looking man named Roy, who probably had no idea what he was really caring for. When Ethan saw me, he walked over. Roy tried to stop him, but Ethan shook him off gently. Can I talk to my sister? He asked, just for a minute. No, my foster dad said immediately. Please. I need her to understand. Patricia stepped between us. Not without supervision and not today. Judge's orders. Ethan looked at me, really looked at me. The mask was gone now. His eyes were empty, flat. 60 days, he said softly. That's all you bought yourself. 60 days. That's enough, Roy said, pulling him away. As they walked down the hallway, Ethan glanced back once, smiled. It wasn't a sad smile anymore. On the way home, my foster mom called the Kowalskis. They agreed to bring my sister in for the medical examination that afternoon. I asked if I could be there. Judge Chen had given permission for me to provide support if my sister wanted it. She did. The examination was done by Dr. Lenora Price, a pediatric specialist who worked with abuse cases. She was kind but thorough. My sister was terrified, shaking as she changed into the hospital gown. I held her hand the whole time. Dr. Price documented everything, every scar, every old injury. She measured the crescent-shaped burn on my sister's thigh, took photographs from multiple angles, took a detailed history. How did you really get this? She asked gently. My sister looked at me. I nodded. My brother burned me, she whispered, with a lighter, because I broke his game controller. He said if I told anyone, he'd do it again, but somewhere people could see. So I said it was tea. Did your mother know? She didn't want to know. She'd get angry when we tried to tell her, said we were making things up for attention. Dr. Price documented it all. Then she did something I didn't expect. She sat down with my sister at eye level. I believe you, she said. Do you understand? I believe every word you're telling me, and I'm going to make sure the judge believes you too. My sister started crying. Real crying, not the quiet tears she usually shed. Mrs. Kowalski came in and held her while she sobbed. All the fear, all the years of being told she was lying or dramatic or attention-seeking, it all came pouring out. That night, back at my foster parents' house, I finally felt like maybe, just maybe, adults were starting to listen. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo. Dr. Price, coming out of her office building, taken today, with a caption, "Pretty doctor. Wonder if she has kids." I showed my foster dad immediately. He called Patricia. She called the police. They traced the number to a burner phone. Untraceable. He's not going to stop, I said. Then neither will we, my foster dad replied. The next few weeks were intense. The forensic psychologist Judge Chen appointed was Dr. Timothy Wu. He interviewed each of us separately, multiple sessions. Unlike Dr. Vance, he actually did his job. He reviewed all the evidence, talked to our teachers, former neighbors, anyone who'd known us before the removal. He interviewed Ethan 3 times. Each session was recorded and reviewed by other experts. I never saw the recordings, but Patricia told me what Dr. Wu had found. Ethan had answered every question perfectly, was polite, remorseful, insightful about his past behaviors. Everything you'd want to hear from a reformed, troubled teen. But there were small things, micro-expressions that didn't match what he was saying, responses that were too rehearsed. And when Dr. Wu brought up specific incidents, the dead cats, the threats, Ethan's physiological responses were all wrong. No real emotion, just performance. He's good, Dr. Wu told Patricia. Better than most, but he's not as good as he thinks. My sister's evaluation was heartbreaking. She had PTSD, severe anxiety, developmental trauma, but she was healing. 3 years away from Ethan had allowed her to start recovering. The Kowalskis had done everything right. My evaluation showed similar patterns. Trauma responses that were consistent with prolonged abuse from a family member, hypervigilance, trust issues, but also resilience. My foster parents had helped me build coping mechanisms, given me space to heal. The evidence was mounting, but so was Ethan's retaliation. Dr. Price's car was vandalized. Nothing traceable to Ethan, but the timing was suspicious. Beverly received anonymous complaints about her job performance, detailed accounts that seemed to come from someone with inside knowledge of the case. The Kowalskis' house was egged 3 times. Again, nothing provable. My foster parents installed security cameras. So did the Kowalskis. We were all living in a state of siege. Then, 45 days after the initial hearing, something changed. Roy, Ethan's foster father, called Patricia, said he needed to talk. Off the record first, then officially if what he had to say mattered. It mattered. Roy had found something, hidden in Ethan's room, behind a loose baseboard. A box. Inside were photos of my sister and recent photos, taken without our knowledge. Photos of where we lived, where we went to school. There were notes too. Plans, details about our routine, our vulnerabilities, and there was a new diary. This one was worse than the old one. It talked about the hearing, about the judge, about Dr. Wu. It detailed how Ethan was managing his expressions, controlling his responses, playing the role he needed to play. There were pages about what he planned to do once reunification happened, how long he'd wait before starting again, how he'd learned from his mistakes, gotten better at hiding things. There was an entry about me specifically. She thinks she's won. She thinks the evidence will save her. She doesn't understand that I'm patient. I can wait years, decades. One day, when everyone has forgotten, when she thinks she's safe, I'll remind her. Fear isn't about the present. It's about the future. The endless, uncertain future where she'll never truly be safe. Roy called the police. This time they took it seriously. The combination of the threatening texts, the photos, and the diary was enough for the DA to get involved. They were discussing criminal charges. Ethan was 15, old enough to be held accountable. The final hearing was scheduled for day 60 exactly. By then, everything had changed. Dr. Wu's report was damning. 47 pages documenting not just Ethan's past behaviors, but his current psychological state. The diagnosis was harsh but accurate. Conduct disorder with psychopathic features, lack of empathy, manipulative behavior, predatory patterns. Dr. Wu recommended intensive, long-term residential treatment in a secure facility. He explicitly stated that reunification with siblings would pose a serious safety risk. Dr. Price's medical report confirmed that my sister's scar was absolutely not consistent with a T-spill. The size, shape, location, and burn pattern matched a lighter. She'd also found 3 other scars that had been documented as accidents, but appeared to be deliberate injuries. Beverly, to her credit, finally listened. She submitted her own updated report recommending against reunification. I think Roy's call had shaken her, or maybe it was seeing the new diary. Either way, she'd stopped fighting us. The day of the final hearing was cold. November had arrived with bitter wind and gray skies. The courthouse looked even more imposing than before. This time, Ethan was in handcuffs. The DA had filed charges: stalking, criminal threats, animal cruelty. More charges were being considered based on the new evidence. He looked at me as they led him into the courtroom. No more masks. No more tears, just cold, flat hatred. Judge Chen had reviewed everything. You could see it in her face. The weight of what she'd read, what she now understood. I've been practicing family law for 23 years, she said. I've seen hundreds of cases involving troubled children. I always believe in giving children second chances. In redemption, in the possibility of change. She paused. This is not one of those cases. She detailed her finding. The evidence was overwhelming. The risk to my sister and me was real and documented. Ethan's progress in therapy was, as Dr. Wu put it, performance rather than actual rehabilitation. I'm ordering the following, Judge Chen said. First, all 3 children will remain in their current foster placements. Second, there will be no further contact between Ethan and his sisters until they are adults and can make that choice themselves. Third, I'm recommending that Ethan be placed in a residential treatment facility specializing in conduct disorders. This placement will be long-term, potentially lasting until he ages out of the system. Beverly nodded. Roy looked relieved. Ethan showed nothing. Finally, Judge Chen said, looking at me, I want to apologize. You tried to tell adults what was happening. You provided evidence. You protected your sister for years, and the system failed you. It took far too long for us to listen. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. After the hearing, my foster parents took me out for lunch. We sat in a quiet diner, none of us really eating, just processing. Is it really over? I asked. My foster dad thought about it. The legal part is. The rest, he shrugged, that takes longer. But you're safe now. Your sister is safe. That's what matters. My foster mom reached across the table and took my hand. You did an incredibly brave thing. You stood up when it would have been easier to stay quiet. You saved yourself and your sister. I shouldn't have had to, I said quietly. Adults should have seen it. Mom should have protected us. You're right, she said. You shouldn't have had to, but you did anyway. And that strength, that's yours. No one can take that away. That evening, I called my sister. She answered on the first ring. Did you hear? I asked. Mrs. Kowalski told me. Is it really over? Yeah. He's going to a treatment facility. We don't have to see him again. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, I don't have to be scared anymore? Not of him. Not anymore. She started crying. Happy crying, I think. Or maybe just relieved crying. Thank you. Thank you for not giving up. For fighting for us. You fought too. You testified. You told the truth even when you were terrified, because you showed me how. After we hung up, I sat on my bed and looked around my room, the room where I'd finally learned to sleep without nightmares, where I'd started to heal, where I'd found a family that actually protected me instead of dismissing me. My foster mom knocked softly. Can I come in? I nodded. She sat next to me on the bed. Your sister asked if she could have a sleepover here next weekend, she said. The Kowalskis think it would be good for both of you. What do you think? I'd like that. Good, because I already said yes, she smiled. I thought we could make cookies, watch movies, just be normal for a while. Normal. I wasn't sure I knew what that looked like anymore, but I wanted to find out. The next few months were an adjustment. Ethan was placed in a facility 3 states away. High security, intensive treatment. I heard through Beverly that he wasn't responding well to therapy, refused to participate, maintained that he'd been falsely accused, was the victim of jealous siblings and incompetent caseworkers. I didn't care what he believed. He was gone. That was enough. My sister and I started having regular sleepovers. At first, she'd wake up in the middle of the night, panicked, checking to make sure I was still there. But gradually, those episodes became less frequent. She started laughing more, talking more. The stutter that had crept back during the custody battle faded again. We never talked about Ethan, not directly, but sometimes she'd say things like, "Remember when we couldn't even eat dinner without being afraid?" Or, "I used to think I'd never feel safe. Now I have to remind myself that I actually am safe." Healing wasn't linear. I still had bad days. Days where I'd check my phone compulsively for threats that would never come. Days where I'd hear a noise at night and my heart would race. My therapist said that was normal. Trauma doesn't disappear just because the threat is gone. It takes time to convince your body that the danger is really over. But there were good days too. Days where I'd realize I'd gone hours without thinking about him. Days where I could walk home from school without looking over my shoulder. Days where my sister would send me random texts, funny memes, song recommendations, just normal sibling stuff. 6 months after the final hearing, Beverly called. She wanted to apologize in person. Meet for coffee, she said, to explain. I almost said no, but my therapist encouraged me to hear her out. Closure, she called it. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Beverly looked older than I remembered, tired. Thank you for coming, she said once we sat down. I know you didn't have to. You're right, I didn't, she winced. I deserved that. She stirred her coffee, not meeting my eyes. I wanted to explain, not excuse, just explain. In my 15 years doing this work, I've seen so many kids failed by the system. Kids who needed families, who could have thrived with the right support, but never got it. I became fixated on the idea that siblings should stay together, that family bonds could heal anything. She finally looked up. I was wrong. Not about family being important, but about thinking that blood relation automatically means safety. You dismissed everything I said. I did. I told myself you were traumatized, that you couldn't see clearly, that your foster family had influenced you, made you suspicious. I wanted so badly for the story to have a happy ending that I ignored the evidence of what the real story was. People could have died, I said quietly. My sister, me, someone. I know. Her voice broke. I read his diary, the new one. I saw what he was planning, what he was capable of. And I realized that if the judge had ruled differently, if you hadn't fought so hard, I would have been responsible for putting you back in danger. She wiped her eyes. I've been seeing a therapist, working through my own issues, why I needed to believe in redemption so much that I ignored reality. And I wanted you to know that I've changed how I handle cases. I listen now, really listen, especially to the children. I didn't know what to say. Part of me was angry. Part of me appreciated the apology. Mostly, I just felt tired. Thank you for telling me, I finally said. That's all I wanted, to say I'm sorry and that I've learned from my mistakes. You shouldn't have had to fight this hard to be heard. That was my failure, not yours. We finished our coffee in awkward silence. As I left, she called after me. You're going to be okay. You and your sister. I know that doesn't mean much coming from me, but I can see it. You're both going to be more than okay. Maybe she was right. Time would tell. A year after the final hearing, my foster parents sat me down for a talk. I knew what it was about before they started. We'd been dancing around it for months. We'd like to make this official, my foster dad said. If you're open to it, we'd like to adopt you. I'd known it was coming, but hearing the words still made my throat tight. What about my sister? The Kowalskis have asked her the same question, my foster mom said. She said yes. You two can still see each other all the time. Nothing changes except the legal status. I'd have your last name, if you wanted, or you could keep yours, or hyphenate, whatever feels right to you. I thought about it. Not about whether I wanted it, I did, but about what it meant. Letting go of the idea of my birth family, accepting that this was my real family now. Can I think about it? I asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. But I didn't need time. Not really. I knew my answer. 2 days later, I told them yes. The adoption was finalized on a Tuesday morning. Nothing fancy, just a hearing where the judge, a different judge, not Chen, signed papers and congratulated us. But my foster parents had invited friends, and the Kowalskis brought my sister. We went out for celebration lunch afterward. My sister pulled me aside. Does this feel weird to you, having different last names now? A little. Good weird, though. Yeah, good weird. She smiled. We're still sisters. That doesn't change. Never. She showed me her phone. The Kowalskis had given her a new number, just to be safe. Want to take a selfie? First official photo as adopted kids? We took the picture, both of us grinning, wearing matching necklaces my new parents and the Kowalskis had given us. Sisters by choice now, not just by birth. That night, I updated my social media, changed my name, posted the photo. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of someone finding me. Ethan was still in the facility. Would be for years, according to his latest evaluation. He'd been deemed a threat to himself and others. Long-term residential care was recommended until at least age 21. I didn't feel vindicated by that. Just sad. Sad that a person could be so broken that they couldn't be fixed. Sad that my sister and I had lost years of our childhood to fear. Sad that our mom had been so neglectful that she'd enabled his behavior. But I also felt something else. Hope. Because despite everything, my sister and I had survived. We'd gotten out. We'd found families who actually cared about us, who protected us, who believed us. Some stories don't have happy endings, but they can have new beginnings. 2 years later, I graduated high school. My parents, because that's what they were now, my parents threw a party. My sister was there, about to start her sophomore year. She'd joined the drama club, made friends, stopped checking locks compulsively before bed. We'd both come so far. At the party, someone asked me about my plans. College, I said. Psychology major. I wanted to work with kids in foster care, help them navigate the system, be the kind of advocate I'd wished I'd had. My sister overheard and rolled her eyes affectionately. Of course you are. Can't help yourself, can you? Always trying to save everyone. Not everyone, just the ones who need it. She hugged me. Well, you saved me, so I guess you're pretty good at it. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the back porch with my dad. He'd been quiet during the party, watching me with this proud but sad expression. You okay? I asked. Just thinking about how far you've come, how much you've had to overcome. He shook his head. Most adults couldn't have done what you did. Standing up to the system, fighting for your sister. You were just a kid and you were braver than anyone I've ever met. I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified. That's what makes it brave, doing it anyway. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then he said, you know he's being released next year, right? Ethan. He ages out of the facility when he turns 18. My stomach dropped. I hadn't known. Where will he go? I don't know, but he can't contact you legally. There's a permanent restraining order. If he comes near you or your sister, he goes to jail. You think a restraining order will stop him? No, but we're prepared. We've got lawyers, security systems, plans in place, and you're not alone anymore. You've got us, the Kowalskis, your sister, a whole network of people who will protect you. What if it's not enough? He looked at me seriously. Then we'll deal with it. Together. But I don't think he'll risk it. He likes control. He likes winning. And you've already beaten him. You got away. You built a life without him. Going after you now would just prove that you were right about him all along. I wanted to believe that. But I knew Ethan, knew how patient he was, how he thought in years and decades. Still, my dad was right about one thing. I wasn't alone anymore. And I was stronger now. We both were. My sister and I. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. The day Ethan was released, I got a notification, part of the court order. He had to register his address, inform authorities of his movements. He went to a halfway house 2 states away, got a job at a warehouse, started checking in with the parole officer. For 6 months, nothing happened. No contact, no threats. I started to relax. Then on the 6-month anniversary of his release, I got a letter, forwarded through his parole officer, completely legal. It said, I'm not allowed to contact you directly, but I wanted you to know I'm doing well. I've been getting treatment, working on myself. I understand now why you were scared. I was a troubled kid who did terrible things, but I'm different now. One day when enough time has passed, maybe we can talk. Not as victims and abuser, just as siblings. I hope you're happy. I hope you found peace. I have no ill will toward you. Never did. I was just sick. Now I'm healing. Maybe someday you can heal too. Maybe someday you'll stop being afraid. Your brother. I showed it to my parents. My mom went pale. My dad called the parole officer immediately. Was this allowed? Was he violating the restraining order? Technically, no. The letter wasn't threatening. Was sent through proper channels. Didn't ask for contact or provide his location. It was carefully worded to be just inside the boundaries of what was legal. But we all knew what it really was. A reminder. He knew where I was. He was thinking about me. He was patient. This is harassment, my dad said to the parole officer. I agree. But legally, my hands are tied. He has a right to send mail through official channels as long as it's not threatening. I'll make a note of it in his file. If he sends another one, we might have grounds to argue he's violating the spirit of the restraining order. After that call, I sat with the letter for a long time, reading between the lines. Maybe someday you'll stop being afraid. That was the point. He wanted me to be afraid. Wanted me to know he was out there, waiting. My sister called. She'd gotten an identical letter. What do we do? She asked. Nothing. We don't respond. We don't engage. We just live our lives. For how long? Forever? If that's what it takes. But I knew what she was really asking. How long until we felt safe? How long until every notification, every unknown number, every knock on the door didn't make our hearts race? Maybe never. Maybe this was just the price of surviving him. 3 years passed. I was in college, studying hard, making friends, building a life. My sister was applying to universities. We talked weekly, saw each other during breaks. We were okay. Not perfect, but okay. Ethan sent 1 letter a year, always on the same date, always carefully worded to be just legal enough, always a reminder that he was out there, thinking about us. My therapist said he was trying to maintain control, that by making us anticipate his letters, he was still exerting power over our lives. She suggested we stop reading them, just throw them away unopened. I tried. I really did. But there was always that fear. What if this is the one where he tells me he's coming? What if there's a real threat hidden in the careful words? On the 4th anniversary of his release, the letter didn't come. At first, I was relieved. Then I was terrified. If he wasn't following the pattern, what did that mean? My dad contacted the parole officer. Ethan had completed his parole, was no longer required to check in. His last known address was the halfway house, but he'd moved out months ago. No forwarding address. No job on record. He'd dropped off the grid. This is it, I said to my sister on the phone. He's coming. You don't know that. Why else would he stop? Why else disappear? We increased security, told campus police to be alert, carried pepper spray, checked in with each other multiple times a day. Weeks passed. Nothing. Months passed. Still nothing. A year went by. No letters, no sightings, no contact. Maybe he really did move on, my sister said. We were at my apartment having dinner. She'd gotten into her first choice university, was thriving. Maybe he found someone else to obsess over. Or maybe he's waiting until we drop our guard. Or maybe you're giving him exactly what he wants. Letting him live in your head rent-free, letting the fear of him control your life even though he's not even here. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing and believing are different things. I'm 25 now. My sister is 21. We're both building lives, pursuing careers, falling in love, being normal. The nightmares are less frequent. The paranoia is manageable. We've gone days, sometimes weeks, without thinking about Ethan. But he's still out there, somewhere. Maybe he really has moved on. Maybe he found treatment that worked. Maybe he grew up and grew out of whatever darkness lived inside him. Or maybe he's still patient, still waiting. I don't know which scares me more. What I do know is this. I survived. My sister survived. We got away from a dangerous situation that could have killed us. We found families who loved us. We built lives worth living. That's what matters. The fear might never completely go away. Some scars are permanent, but they don't define us. They're just part of our story. And we're still writing that story. Every day, every choice, every moment of joy we claim, despite everything we've been through. We won, not because he's gone or changed or been punished enough, but because we're still here, still fighting, still living, and that's something he can never take away. Last week, I got a notification. Ethan had been arrested in Nevada, breaking and entering, assault. The victim was a young woman, 19 years old. She'd filed a restraining order against her ex-boyfriend. That ex-boyfriend was in the hospital now. Ethan had attacked him. The victim's name was Lily. She reminded Ethan of his sister, according to the police report. He'd become obsessed with protecting her, had broken into her apartment to install security cameras without her knowledge. When she reported him, he escalated. He was back in custody, this time adult charges, real prison time. When my dad told me, I felt a confusing mix of emotions. Relief that he'd been caught, sadness for his victim, who'd done nothing wrong except remind him of someone, vindication that I'd been right. He hadn't changed. He couldn't change. Does this mean it's over? My sister asked when I called her. I don't know, maybe. But you don't believe that. I believe we're safe for now. That's enough. And it was. It had to be. Because this is the reality of surviving abuse. You don't get a neat ending. You don't get the satisfaction of knowing your abuser has been permanently stopped. You just get moments of peace, stretches of safety, and the strength you've built to handle whatever comes next. We're survivors. That's our story. Not victims, survivors. And we're still surviving every single day. That's how it ends. Not with a dramatic confrontation or a perfect resolution, just with life continuing, with 2 sisters who got away, who built new families, who learned that safety is something you create for yourself, not something you wait for someone else to provide. We saved ourselves, and in the end, that's the only ending that matters.